Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen or Rav Shmuel with you. So I am going to be live streaming on YouTube. I'll definitely save these for later, but unfortunately, there's a glitch in my computer. The microphone on my camera is not working when I record a video. I've checked out some various fixes, but nothing seems to work. So if anybody has any ideas, please let me know. Okay, so this week we're going to look at the Parashat Teitzei, when you go out. And we are proceeding through Deuteronomy. And yes, the high holidays are coming upon us. We have just about a month. We are pretty much in the month of Elul, which in a sense is sort of the unofficial start of the high holidays. So it's in Elul when every morning and evening we recite Psalm 27, kind of to get us in the mood of repenting and taking a look at our actions and our behavior, and really asking for God's help to make ourselves better over the next year. The high holidays are actually kind of a long process, where Shabbat is the seventh day, and we have the 7 weeks going from Passover to Shavuot, when Moses liberated us, until a time when Moses received on our behalf the 10 and all the rest of the commandments. And the seventh month is really kind of a whole month full of rest and really kind of reconnecting with our spiritual selves. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to it. I don't want to talk about it completely now, but you know what we're saying. So, Teitzei, when you go out. Now, it's interesting that in the Torah and in the Talmud, there's things that are addressed that kind of, well, let's just say they leave no stone unturned. They talk about everything. Because what is Torah really about? It's connecting toward Hashem. It's exhibiting and exemplifying really the best behavior, respect for our fellow man, for our fellow person. Let's be politically correct. Respect for Hashem, because Hashem created all of us, brothers and sisters. We're all God's children. We all have the same father or mother, if you prefer. So we're all kind of connected. So it's important that we behave in a way that respects people and creates an orderly and trusting society. Well, inherent to that are some of the baser emotions that we as humans tend to portray. And yes, some of them, you eat food goes in and food has to come out, in two different ways. So how do you deal with that? The other part of it is that God created us with these urges. And Judaism does not say don't have the urges. It says you have the urges, so find a way to exhibit them, to indulge in them, but in appropriate ways. Okay? So in our portion Teitzei, we start off with some ways to manage some of that behavior. And it follows the previous portion, Shoftim v'shotrim, judges and officers shall you appoint. So the judges are those that adjudicate, and the officers are the ancient equivalent of police, which are there to uphold the results of the judgments, to uphold the judgments, right? So it calls for, as this generation is going to settle and conquer and settle the new land, the promised land, that they set up this system of courts. And of course, the king is the ultimate ruler, but the ultimate civil servant. The king as well has to observe all these laws. So it talks about setting up these courts and talking about setting up justice. Now, in our portion, they deal with some very interesting topics. So when Israel goes out to war, and we know that war involves a lot of adrenaline, it involves some of the horrible things that we do as people, but sometimes it's necessary. So here's the situation where a soldier is out and fighting for his people, and he comes upon a woman, quote unquote, of beautiful form, an enemy woman that he wants to have relationships with. Now, the sages are kind of um, mixed or disagreeing. Is the soldier going to have a relationship, a physical relationship with the woman right there? Or is the soldier going to bring the woman back to his camp or to his home and have relationships with her there? But there is a series of hoops that the soldier needs to jump through. In other words, there are specific conditions. First of all, this is a woman that is going to be leaving her people. Idolaters, pagans, yes, but it's still her people, it's still her family. So she needs a 30-day period of mourning, the same period that we mourn for relatives and friends that die that are not our parents, right? Otherwise, it'd be a year, but for everyone else, it's really 30 days, the Shalomim, that we mourn. So she cuts her hair, she lets her nails grow long, she dresses in not so enticing clothing so that she is not of physical beauty. So she hides her physical beauty and she presents herself as someone who, maybe is not so desirable. And if the Israelite still wants to cohabit with her, then he must marry her after that. And of course, she needs to be on board with that as well. So this is respecting someone who is taken captive, and basically she becomes a wife. She becomes a respectable wife to this soldier. Now, what we find in Torah is, even though Teitzei has a series and a list, kind of a laundry list of various laws, they kind of follow a succession. So when a man takes a woman, and a captive of the enemy, as his wife, what happens next? Well, he may have another wife. Back then, multiple wives was part of society and it was allowed. So it may turn out that because of their union or through their union, that may be the first son. Now, back in that time, primogeniture, the firstborn son, was the favored son in terms of inheritance. So let's say a man has three sons. The first son got a double portion. So if a man has three sons, his estate is divided up into four parts, and the firstborn gets a double portion and the other two get a single portion. If the firstborn is the result of that union between him and this woman that he took captive in battle, doesn't matter. He still gets the double portion. The man does not get to pick and choose which one of his sons gets the double portion. This is kind of a warning, but when you take a captive woman as your wife, she is your wife. Now, there may be times when the initial attraction starts to wear off. And the man, she was kind of hot or beautiful when I first met her. Now, not so much. And a son is the result of that union. The son, kids are, they pick up on things. And the man may not act toward his son in a loving and caring manner, the way he may react to other sons, or that may be his only child. And he may look at the son and not feel, the love that he ought to feel for his son, because the mother is not a native Israelite, et cetera, et cetera. And the son picks up on it and starts to exhibit certain behavior. Now, it could also be the result of the fact that his mother was not a native Israelite, did not grow up with Torah, maybe still has some pagan and idolatry ideas. So the son doesn't have the respect for Torah and the commandments that maybe he ought to. He starts indulging. He starts indulging in food. He starts indulging in alcohol. But there are consequences. He may start stealing money to meet those cravings. Well, today, of course, we would just send the kid to rehab, to an adult unit, and let the psychologists and the addiction counselors, help him through this, and hopefully the kid learns his lesson. Back then, the consequence is you bring him to the elders and they stone him to death. Now, everybody pick up your jaw from your floor, put it back on, up, and understand that in reality, this never happened. This is a warning. This is a warning of the consequences of a soldier who indulges his lust, takes the woman home, wants to continue indulging his lust until the excitement wears off, and now you have a son as a result of this. It's a tale of caution. Be careful what you do, because all your actions have consequences, and this may be a consequence that you don't want to deal with. If you don't, then don't start the process. And that's really what this is all about. There are so much criteria in order for that final consequence to happen that it's practically impossible for it to be carried out. And our sages assured us it never happened. Okay? So consider that when you engage in actions. All your actions have consequences, and that's really the moral of the story. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. See you in services. Once again, congratulations to the newest member of our adult community who may participate in a minyan, Colin Roth, Chaim Ben Michael, and thank you for listening.